The Kansas City Chiefs took down the Bengals, the Cowboys being upset at home by the Saints. Also, some more upsets. The Cardinals, Buccaneers, a lot of upsets happening in the NFL. Aaron Rodgers gets his first true win as the New York Jets starting quarterback, and it's 2 more weeks to go in the MLB season. We have power rankings for you. This is Coast to Coast Sports. My name is Levi. Welcome back to the show. I want to start with Bengals Chiefs. Look, let me walk you through it. How many times have you been in this scenario? How many times have you seen this happen on TV, live on television? It's 4th and goal, or it's 4th and, whatever. And the team with the ball needs to score to win. They're down, let's say they're down by 5. They need a touchdown to win. Last play of the game, 4th down, heaves it to the end zone, and there's a contact, and the announcer even says, looks like there's contact there, but the refs don't call it. Game over. And what do the announcers say? They say, you can't put that in the hands of the announcers. You gotta let it play out. On the last play of the game, on a last-ditch attempt, which is what it is. I mean, it's a 4th and long, or it's a 3rd and long, Hail Mary kind of a situation. You have to score to win. You cannot call a penalty there. That's what the announcers always say, right? You hear it all the time. They say, you can't leave this to the announcers. You can't put this in their hands. Yes, there was contact, but we have to let it play out. How many times have you heard that? I mean, I've heard it so many times. But not when it comes to the Chiefs, no. The Chiefs get the call, as they always do. And that's exactly what happened. To be fair, it's not the exact scenario, but it's pretty much the same scenario that I'm given, right? It's not that they needed to score, but it was a 4th and 16, and they needed 30 yards to kick a field goal. 4th and 16. It wasn't a Hail Mary per se, but it was about the same thing. Mahomes threw into double coverage, but of course, he got the call. And I'm not saying that the Bengals didn't commit a penalty there. They did. It was a penalty. But what I'm saying is the Chiefs might be the only team in the league who gets that call. Every other team, the excuse from the refs, and it's not an excuse, but from every other team, what are the refs going to say? What are the announcers going to say? They're going to say, yeah, there was contact, but we got to let it play out. We're not going to insert ourselves into the game's biggest play and breathe life into the team that's losing simply because it was on a 4th and 16, of course there's going to be contact. So yes, it was a penalty, but the Chiefs might be the only team in the league who get that call. It was a late call too. Look, they weren't even going to call it. And then all of a sudden he remembers, oh wait, it's the Chiefs. I'm not saying the league is rigged, but I'm saying there is incentive for the Chiefs to win. There is. There's incentive for the Chiefs to win these games. Mahomes, Kelsey, Taylor Swift, these are the faces of the league. Yes, Taylor Swift is one of the faces of the NFL. It's crazy, but it is. Andy Reid, maybe the only coach that's doing multiple commercial deals. He's on the State Farm, he's on the Burger King. Harrison Butker, love him or hate him, he's easily the most well-known kicker in the league. The Chiefs are the face of the league. They are the faces of the league. And there is incentive for them to win. I think there's incentive for them to make the Super Bowl. I think there's incentive for them to three-peat. And again, I'm not saying that it's rigged. I'm not saying that it's scripted, but I'm saying on these close games that are decided by an inch of a toe, games that are decided by a 4th and 16 pass interference call that put them in field goal range, on these close games, there's incentive to let the Chiefs win. There's incentive to help the Chiefs win. And it's little things like that that make the biggest difference. If not for a penalty and a toe, the Chiefs could be 0-2. Instead, they're 2-0, and they just took down two of their biggest AFC contenders. From here, the Chiefs' schedule gets remarkably easy. So they are likely going to go on a bit of a run here. I'm pulling up the Chiefs' schedule right now. But for the Chiefs, they just took down the Ravens and the Bengals. And again, speaking of, it played very much into their favor. They get the Ravens and Bengals weeks 1 and 2 at home in front of their audience. Ravens on primetime. The Bengals always struggle early in the season. Always, without fail, struggle early in the season. So they got maybe their two hardest games at the two best times. They play the Falcons next week. They will win that game. Then the Chargers, tough game, but they will probably win. Then they host New Orleans, who look good, but again, that should be a win. And then the 49ers, who just got upset by the Vikings. That'll be their big test on the 20th. After that, Raiders, Buccaneers, Broncos, Bills, Panthers, Raiders, Chargers. It's not the easiest of schedules, but they're going to win. If they beat the Falcons, Chargers, and Saints, they're going to be undefeated going into that matchup at San Francisco. If they beat them, they get the Raiders, then they'll be 7-0. Tampa Bay will be tough, but they should win that game, as well as the Broncos. They could be 9-0 when they head to Buffalo on November 17th. That's not within the question. You know, there's some tough games on there at Los Angeles, at Atlanta, at San Francisco, and hosting Tampa, but they will be favored in all of those games. They will be, because it's the Chiefs. Meanwhile, the Bengals falling to 0-2. Luckily for them, the Ravens are also 0-2. But the Steelers are now 2-0, and the Steelers have kind of grabbed a commanding lead in that division. The Bengals have some easier games coming up. They get Washington, then the Panthers, so they should be 2-2, and then they play the Ravens. That'll be a big game. I think they can beat the Ravens at home, but you never know. If they win that, they'll be 3-2. Then they get the Giants. They can move to 4-2. Browns will be tough, and then the Eagles will be tough. Let's say they split those 5-3. Then the Raiders, Ravens, let's say they split those 6-4. Chargers could get them, but let's say they don't, 7-4. Then the Steelers is a big game on December 1st. Let's say they win that, they get to 8-4. Maybe lose to Dallas, beat the Titans, so now they're 9-5. Beat the Browns, get to 10-5, beat the Broncos 11-5, and then the Steelers in the final week of the season could be for the division. But I think they lose at Pittsburgh, so I feel like this is an 11-6 team at best, and that's still, I mean, I'm giving them a lot of victories here, but again, I think they can win a bunch of games coming down here, and I think they have to beat the Commanders next Monday. They have to beat the Panthers the week after that. And then that Ravens game is going to be big as far as control of the division goes. If they lose to the Ravens, they beat the Giants, they can still be 3-3 going into kind of the middle of the season. But if they're 3-3 going into Browns-Eagles, that is going to be tough. And then let's say that turns into 4-4. Maybe the Ravens hand you another loss, 5-5. If the Chargers get to you, the Cowboys, I mean, there are a bunch of losses potentially on that schedule. I don't want the Bengals to become irrelevant. I'm worried that this is kind of the beginning of them falling to irrelevancy. I mean, last year they won 8 games. This year, I think 11 is probably their hard cap right now. Maybe, I don't think they can get to 12. I mean, that would be 12-3. They don't look like a bad team. They just don't look like the same team. Their defense is still good, but they're going to lose Jamar Chase and T. Higgins this offseason, and then what's going to happen? You know, they already lost Mixon, and they can't run the ball anymore. Zach Moss is not nearly the runner that Joe Mixon was. Gesicki I like as a tight end, but he's old. He's not going to be around forever. My fear is that Joe Burrow is going to turn into Matt Ryan in Atlanta after he lost all the weapons, and it's going to be a great quarterback surrounded by nothingness, and they're just going to be kind of an irrelevant team, which is weird to think about. But that's kind of where I'm at with the Bengals right now. Meanwhile, the Chiefs, yeah, they're gonna cruise this division.